Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, it's me again, and I am doing another show. You know what's kind of weird tonight? I'm going to try to play a few seconds of this. I'm not going to get into the song, but do you ever get a song stuck in your head? My mom was watching some talk show host the other night, and somebody did a parody of this. Or not a parody, they did something where they were all moving in the same direction at the same time with some song, and it's by ATC All Around the World, and it just sticks in your freaking head. Here's part of it in the background. So, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but yeah, the song is like freaking stuck in my head. I don't know if you can hear that, because I don't want to really play it and then get in trouble for it. But the song sticks in your freaking head. Should probably stop this. So I hope it sticks in your head now, like it has been in my head for since I've heard that. I remember I heard this song on the radio the other day. So not on the radio. I saw on YouTube some people who like danced to certain music, and the song stuck in my head then. Anyway, I put in the foreground, the background, whatever you call it. And I'm hoping this is going to work rather well, but I updated the kernel, I believe it's called. I updated the OS, which cost nothing on my Linux box. And I was running Linux Mint, I forget what version, 18, and it did a bump up to 19.3 on Linux. So, the thing is, it's like, I think it's the one that's a little, they call it stable version and the unstable version. I think this was the unstable version. A friend who actually introduced me, Rich Minjin, who introduced me to Linux in the first place, used to, tell me about like stable and unstable OSs. Unstable means, and by the way, with Linux, they update it every single day, every few hours, actually. But yeah, I was just kind of curious, and it was like, wow. And it used to be something that you really needed to know a lot about, like to update the kernel on Linux. They made it so easy. It's like basically run the Windows on your PC, but it's not Windows, it's Linux. And I told some friend, my computer, my main desktop pro, which I actually initially bought to do video editing, and mainly all I actually have done, not that I wouldn't mind doing little video shorts like I did in the past. I just really don't have the time, the energy, or the effort to put into it like I did. I lost some of that morale to do that, so I have not done that in many, many years. And I actually bought a 4K camera a couple years ago, and I end up never using it. It's never been touched. The box was thrown out, but the actual camera physically was never used. So, and my computer now, my Mac Pro is, I bought it a few years after the fact because it was so damn expensive new. But I just lost my mouse. No, the mouse on the keyboard, or on the keyboard on the computer. Yeah, it's a 2013 Mac Pro. They finally updated it. What is that? Like 7 years later, which for, most PCs, even Mac, that's kind of a long time, and they revamped the whole thing. But the new computers are so god darn expensive. I bought the Mac Pro I have, which I don't use even for audio production, doesn't do a very good job with it. And that was initially, I did it for audio and video production. I bought this damn thing, refurbished for $2,500. And now it's a little bit long-toothed. It's a little bit old. You really can't update it. It still runs fairly decent. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, you can get some newer computers. I really don't want to go back to a Windows environment computer, but sometimes you almost don't have a choice unless you have tons of money. And I mentioned this to my friend Rich, and I said, you know what, I can get some really decent computers for an eighth of the price I paid for my Mac Pro, and I can just slap Linux on there, which I intend to do so, and just run Windows in the foreground or in the background, because what I did is the laptop I have, I actually bought it with Windows on there. I had no choice. I got it at this place called Micro Center in St. David's around me. And the first thing I did, Windows never saw daylight, because I bought the laptop for $250. It was a really junky HP, brand new though. And I never, ever started up Windows. In fact, I had immediately taken it off, and I found whatever would suit me or would be easy for me to use. I put Linux on there, and it's never seen Windows ever. In fact, I torched it so quickly I forgot to back up the files. So I ended up having to contact HP online and purchase backup disks just in case someday I would have to go back and throw Windows on there and, try to fix the problem. But guess what? I think I've had this laptop for about 2 years now, maybe about that much, and I've had not one problem with Linux. In fact, there's a guy I work with who has a very similar laptop, because I brought it to work to show him, and I said, hey, if you're having issues with your computer, I think it's a Windows issue. It's nothing else. And I know he didn't want to be bothered with it, but he looked at the laptop down. He said, yeah, I got one just kind of very similar to this one. It's just all plastic. And he says it just works horribly. It's junk. And it's like, it's not the laptop. It's not your computer. It's what you have on there. It's the software. And I said, I do stuff with this. I run circles around most PCs. And it is a very bare bones, really can't do much of anything laptop with Windows, but you put Linux on this machine and it runs circles. So yeah, I'm running 19.3 Linux Mint, which I just put on after I did my last podcast because I didn't realize it was out there. Mint version 20 should be coming out fairly shortly. I'm just kind of curious how this is going to turn out. I really won't know until I actually finish my podcast and put it up. I'm just crossing my fingers because, it is probably not like the most solid version of Linux. Anyway, yeah, I had quite a few things, which gave me, actually earlier on during the week, I was like, wow, I really need to do another podcast, even after Sunday, after I watched Doctor Who, because I was like really intrigued by it. I thought it was pretty damn good. But that was one of my things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, a lot of people, right after it was aired, I had to wait till 3 a.m. to watch Doctor Who, because I don't want to watch all the commercials. So I'll take the time. I'll wait, and I'll watch it on iTunes where there's no commercials because I purchased the season pass. And I actually thought it was really good. And everybody's griping about it. But before I go there, that was going to be one of my topics. That actually was going to be a whole show. I was going to complain a little bit about my old job, which I'm still fighting with. And, I got some gripes with my new job, but actually twice last week, there was definitely some teething pains at my new job, and it was twice I almost walked out. But believe it or not, as it's starting, or during the middle of the week, not even starting last week, that it got really intense for me to the point that it was like, you know what? I actually did, speak out. And I said, you know what? This job is not worth it. This shithole job. I literally said this out loud. I said, this is a shithole job, which I didn't go to 4 years of, I didn't attend 4 years of college to work at some shithole. And I said that very loudly. And people just like, whoa, we better back off this guy. He's a loose cannon. And it was like, hey, I felt good. But then it happened again where I lost my temper almost again. Not as quite as bad as the day before when this explosion happened with me. And it all started actually also after it was something I was trying to look up. Maybe it was derivative of being pissed off at people making a big deal of Doctor Who, the last episode. I don't know where it started, but one thing led to another. And then I was looking up some television program I watched a couple years ago. I stopped watching called Homeland. That made me look up something else. And topic related to issues I've been taking up with work. Not my present job, but my prior job. And that just made Monday a miserable day for me, and it just escalated with problems at my new job to the point that I almost walked out twice. I'm leaving a lot of it out. But bottom line is the issue that started with me doing some research on some topic that ended up trickling down back to iWalter or myself made me do some more soul research and digging through the house for old paperwork with medical issues I had. That's what I wanted to bring up. And my title picture, or whatever you call it, my little icon for my show tonight, is an actual physical brain scan image of my brain. So just to let you know, it's not from like Ministries. A mind is a terrible thing to taste. It's not from that. It's actually Walter's head, a brain scan of my head and my teeth and my skull. And I think another thing that just escalated this explosion within myself, I'm looking at it now, not this particular article, but what was behind it. And it was from Babylon Bee, and it's titled as a part of settlement with Nick Sandmann, CNN host must wear mega hats during all broadcast. That was the kid from, I believe, Covington, Georgia, who was basically proved that he was correct, that he was pretty much like harassed, and for lack of a better word. And CNN said that this young kid was making fun of a Native American or something like that. I'm not even really doing a very good job paraphrasing this. So, and they said, oh, this kid, because he had a mega hat on, he's a Trump supporter and he's a racist and all this other nonsense. So he said, okay. And it was a Catholic school this kid attended, named Nick Sandmann. I believe that's what this is about. And he put a lawsuit for $250 million against CNN and also his school. Well, apparently there was a settlement, which I have no clue how much it was for. I would really like to know. And part of the settlement with CNN, I apologize, Atlanta, Georgia was where this kid was from. According to the report, as a part of the settlement with Nick Sandmann, CNN hosts will be required to wear mega hats throughout every broadcast. So I think that is freaking hilarious. But that definitely started the Walter explosion. Because this kid, he didn't have to fight as long as I have been. I worked for a multi-million-dollar Fortune 500 company who basically just dragged my name through the mud, and they had broken many rules and got away with it. So, again, one thing led to another. I don't quite remember where it started. I just know that it ended up being, it trickled down to me, just exploded. It was just a downwards spiral with other issues with me. And work, where I work now, it's just like, it really feels kind of like a caste system. We have quite a few folks who come from a country where they do follow a caste system. And they tried to do that with me and like treat me like I'm a third-class citizen. And it's like, well, this is not going to work with me because you obviously don't know who you're screwing with. And Rude Awakening, they got a earful of me getting really, really, really angry. And I don't think they expected that from me. And it's not been the first time I've exploded, and I hate to say it, it probably will not be the last. But it's just like some people, you seemed like you have to remind them, I'm not just talking out, speaking out of my ass. If I say I have issues and I'm presenting them to you, just to give you a heads up, you just don't ignore them and just continue to do it. It's like a mindless child that you tell them, don't do this, and they do it over and over and over again. That's exactly what I deal with every day at work. More so sometimes on a larger scale than others. Anyway, I'm going to jump it around like always tonight. I am holding in my formerly caffeined hands, because I always listen to Rush Limbaugh, and he always says, in my formerly nicotined hands, acting like he doesn't smoke anymore. It's like you smoke cigars. So what are cigars? They're nicotine. What do I do? My vice is a lot of caffeine. Yeah, I did give it up at one point, but I drink more caffeine after giving it up and getting it out of my system now than I did before I gave up caffeine for a short period of time. I mean, I went through all the withdrawals and the headaches and everything else that goes along with withdrawal symptoms, and then I end up needing caffeine again just to stay awake, and I'm worse off now than I ever was. Anyway, I saw this on Facebook, and I'm holding it in front of me. It was this movie called Super Zeros Get Awesome soundtrack and movie. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is a small, basically a CD case. It doesn't have to be, but it's a CD case, just to give you a picture of what it looks like. And it has both a movie soundtrack and the film in the same thing. Well, it looked really cool. And some of the one theme song is some country song that is mixed with rap. And it was actually really entertaining to watch the music video. And it's for this movie. Now, the movie, I watched it just now. It was god-awful. But here's the thing. You got both for $10. It was like $9.99. And then you had to pay separately for the shipping. So you bought a movie, which I didn't expect it to come with the soundtrack as well. They just said you're buying the movie. They never mentioned you're going to get the soundtrack included. So you got both, the full soundtrack and the movie, for a terrible movie. It's horrible. It's horrendous. So, but it was $9. I was like, you know what? And it looked really entertaining. It's about these hillbilly guys who work cleaning out shitters or outhouses. They own an outhouse business. It just seemed god-awful funny. And they basically get hit by a meteorite that gives them superpowers. It was like, you know what? This seems great. And it's only $9 for both the movie and the soundtrack all in one, which I didn't know I was going to get both. Again, I thought I was just going to get the movie for $9. So it came in the mail, I think, yesterday. And I was really shocked it came so quickly because I only ordered it like a week ago. And it was like, okay, well, it's not a total loss because the music for this was kind of entertaining. The one country / rap song was really entertaining to watch because they made a full-length video. It does have a cute blonde-haired girl who plays in the movie. But I wouldn't say the movie was awful in the sense of, like, you see these really bad horror movies that make no sense. Well, this movie definitely made no sense. But it wasn't even that it wasn't shot really well. Didn't look like it was shot on video. It actually looked like it was shot on film. The unfortunate thing, it was shot on, standard definition. It's put on a DVD, so the quality looks quite pretty washed out. But actually, the framework and the way the film was shot, I got to tip my hat. These guys did an incredible job. And it was like very smart of them to market it. I think it was on one of those Kickstarter sites where you got it right away. There's another one like Kickstarter. So you got the movie like right away. You got it a week after you ordered it from again, it wasn't exactly Kickstarter, but it's one of those sites. And it's like, this is an ingenious idea. Probably they saved a lot of money. They just advertised it on Facebook, I think, and Twitter and Instagram, the movie. And instead of putting tons of money into, marketing through other sources, they just obviously did it on their own and put all the money into making a, pretty jewel case, a poster for the film inside the disc, and gave you both the soundtrack and everything. So they probably figured, it's cheaper for us just to market our product on media sources, which is like, you know what? That's a great idea. Because the money they weren't spending on advertisement otherwise, they gave that to you for like $9, $9.99, I think it was. It was like $10 technically. But so I got to tip my hat for that. Again, the movie, I wouldn't say it's awful in the sense of, wow, this is a really poorly shot film. No, it was actually really well edited together, and it was picking on, stereotypical hillbilly life, backwoods people doing literally shit jobs. But, and I think I chuckled once. They actually have a guy that owns a bar who is an Indian, sarcastic dude who is always making, dick jokes. So, he says, "Oh, you like the cock, you like the cock." He's like an Indian bartender who owns a bar. So it's kind of has a very dry sense of humor. The whole thing of these guys getting superpowers from this meteorite was, the special effects were actually really good. That's what kind of caught my eye. They knew how to edit the shots for a trailer perfectly, because they were the best parts of the film. The film itself was just plain boring. It didn't put me to sleep, but it was damn close to doing so. So again, I tip my hat. You did very good advertisement, excellent editing, and very, very smart editing. Now, they seem like they were very heavily influenced by Kevin Smith's Clerks. They did not shoot it in black and white, though. But some of the humor reminds me of those films from that time period when Clerks was out. And especially Clerks, with the dry sense of humor. It's just they kind of went a little bit too far with making it way too dry. So if you really like dry, almost unlaughable humor, you probably would like that. But you can pick up Super Zeros, soundtrack and movie, and again, you could probably just put it on the Google search, and it probably will direct you to where they actually are selling it on a Kickstarter type of link. And I was like, guys, I got to give you credit for that. And you're giving away, because I guess nowadays people realize they're not going to make any money off the soundtrack anyway, so they just threw the whole soundtrack, put it in the jewel case with the movie, and you're getting both for $9.99. I mean, you can't beat that. Boy, I sound like I'm like advertising this awful film, but the only reason I'm mentioning it to this extent is I'm just never thought of that. I mean, it was very clever, and it's all original tracks. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, through and through, they did a great job. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to go back to my Linux box, keep an eye on it. So, yeah, you know what? The other night it was up until 5 in the morning, so I was also very cranky. Going back to the other thing I mentioned, where I did some soul searching on some paperwork that I had, dug up on my past history with my old job. Again, it's like some Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. And it's like, well, Walter, you're saying way too much. I honestly, at this point, I've been holding this grudge against this company for 2 years now. So, and it has not gone away. So I really don't give two shits almost. If I'm going to lose, which I did, I can't go any further. I've hit rock bottom with fighting against a big, conglomerate company that there is no way in hell I'm going to win. So what do I have to lose from complaining about them? The only thing I had not given away is the name of the company, because they could turn around and sue me on that fact. Well, you know what? Even though there's no copyright stuff, I mean, I can mention a name, and I really shouldn't be able to get in trouble. But knowing how evil this place is I worked, they will find a way to do so. Say that I broke some rule of mentioning a place, so I'm not going to bother. Anyway, I dug up paperwork that dated back to January 17th, 1986. I was approximately at the time, I think I was only 17, but I could have been like 19 because I was born in 67. So let me do the easy thing, because I am really bad with math. I am extremely bad with math. So let me put in 1986. Is that the name of a song too? I don't know. Minus 1967. I was 19 years old. So anyway, I sent it to a few people, and they wrote to the company my dad worked for, which eventually my dad got me the job there too. And it was addressed to a woman named Gwen. Please be advised that the attached letter sent to the Provident on January 2nd, 1986, refers to son of our employee, Walter Vincent Interrante, with his Social Security number and policy number. Please review the attached advice our employee has let me reread that. Please review the attached and advice our employee as soon as possible. Your decision, response to your decision. It's just RE, though, of extended coverage. Mr. Interani's home address is as follows. Thank you very much for our assistance. Benefits Administrator Irene R. Hagerman. It was addressed from the company that I worked for 18 years and my dad worked for 27 years. Why am I bringing this up? Well, one of the things that this company said is they had no clue. I started in 2001 after I graduated from Cabrini College. I got a job there. They were well aware, way before I started there, that I had mental health issues. And they kept on insisting through and through again that they had no clue about any mental health issues that I had. They had, it was like in 2018 when they got rid of me, we had no clue that Walter Interrante had mental health issues. And yet I found paperwork that dated back 34 years. And you can say, well, you know what? It didn't go to that division. Well, I had more paperwork. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to look. Because there was a paper I just sent out jumping around. And alrighty. Can't find it. A paperwork that was dated 4/12, that's January, February, March, April, 12th, 2012, addressed to the company I worked for, again, for 18 years. It came right from the company. Subject, work restrictions requested, employee name Walter Durante, non-occupational, restrictions end date NA, mean they're indefinite. Restriction status permanent, to be accommodated. And it was for my disability. And that was ignored. That was never brought up. So that was one of the more present times. Let's see. Here's another one. Part 1, request for certification. Walter Durante has acted in such a manner as to cause a responsible party to believe that he or she is severely mentally disabled, and specified to the attached 302 form dated 2/12/2014. 2105 was the time, and then it goes into it. Again, Merck never had any idea that I had any issues mentally or physically, according to them. There is another paper. This one I can't really read too well. My scanned copy. Pre-posted. Was one of my brain scans dated 10/24/1984. This was one I had done in 84. I had one done about 4 years ago. And it's ironic that the brain scan turned out exactly the same. Abnormal, fourth ventricle is seen and appears normal in size and shape. Lateral ventricles appear slightly enlarged for age, and the right lateral ventricle, ventricle is somewhat larger than the left. Okay, so there is no physical problems with me. It was a doctor named Dr. Yu. That was September. Yeah, September, October. No. That was October 24th, 1984. So apparently, even though it's been proven brain matter does not regenerate, in my case, it apparently does. Because apparently it kind of disappears. So it's just amazing how, like, in the real world, brain matter doesn't, you can grow brain, you can't grow new brain cells. But in my case, I should have grown new brain cells because according to them, one, they weren't aware of any mental disorder or physical disorders, which I have both. I'm not going to lie about it. That I have, but that's only, everybody else who doesn't have these issues and their reason for being disqualified or dismissed or terminated from a job is with less probable cause is because of their nationality, because they might be a female, or their ethnicity, which is completely justifiable. Now, physical and mental issues that are both physiological, that's no excuse. What are you talking about? Here is something from financial assistance from a hospitalization with myself, July 17th, 2002. So that was scanned in. I did hand all this stuff that I'm reading right now to the lawyer. Now, a good lawyer will look at this and say, because I've heard this, I did have a lawyer. In fact, it's my own brother who was a lawyer. He looked at a lot of this paperwork, not even the new stuff that I just found. And he says, you have an open and shut case. There is no way. This is a sealed tight case that the company I worked for cannot fight this and win, but yet they did. Physician's examination marked 2/22/14 with mental health issues. But again, and it goes down to physiological issues. But again, unless I was born a woman or in another country or some other more justifiable cause, physiological problems. I mean, I could have been born without a heart and it would have been my fault. I mean, it's just that preposterous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Just more paperwork that does not really give me what I want. I mean, to me, it's giving me what I want, but it's not good for a radio show. Application for extended involuntary treatment, Act of 1976, with myself again. And the date is 2/22. That's February 22nd, 2014. I apologize. I have to shrink down these pages because I can't see them when they're full blown, too big. It's another page, but unfortunately, it's not really helped me. But I think you get maybe a mental picture. I hope. Montgomery County Emergency Services Incorporated. Thursday, 9 a.m. And I was a 302 again. Doesn't really quite have the date on that particular page, but I remember correctly, that one was just, I believe, also 4 years ago. Actually, 5 years ago. I'm trying to shrink down the page. Page 3 of 4. But yeah, this was like the other pages. I'm still shrinking down pages as I go along. Here is one from January 2nd. I apologize. 1986. Claims Department for a Fairmont Institute, Provident Mutual Life Insurance Company of Philadelphia. Response to Walter P. Interante, to whom it may concern. Mr. Interante has been under care at Fairmont Institute from October 28, 1985 to present, and is being treated for major depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and personality, as well as minimal, I need to hyphen that, brain damage. But you remember, if it's anybody else, brain cells don't regenerate themselves. But if it's Walter, oh no, that's not a physiological problem. He's just making all this stuff up. After I had 2 brain scans in the last 50 years, that has nothing to do with it. I should have known better. Obsessive. Okay, I already read that. He is in my opinion, currently totally disabled and unable to attend either school or college, or be able to be effective in social interaction. I do believe, however, his total disability is only temporarily, and that in the future he will be able to attend school or obtain and maintain employment. Okay, that's fine. But you got to look at the whole picture. Brain matter does not reproduce. It does not regenerate. If it's dead, it's not going to reproduce, especially at that age that I was. In fact, when I was in college, I had to prove that I had a learning disability. I had to go for a test. I had to get, not because of the learning disability, but because of my old job, I was forced to get another brain scan at Jefferson Health Hospital. And that was about 8 years ago. And guess what? The brain scan showed up identical to the one I had when I was 19 years old. Wow, what a shock. Due to the above, I request on the behalf of Mr. Narani and his son, Walter, we're both, I'm junior, to have extended benefits past his 19th birthday. And it was Eric Levin, medical doctor. Medical doctor, do you hear that? Sorry, I don't mean to scream, folks. Don't want to, as Rush always says, I don't want to scare anybody. Yeah, so I think I looked over the highlights. And it's just, I am so dumbfounded how idiotic people are to, it is like a double I repeat that, a double standard. MCES treatment plan. That's and for those who don't know, that's the emergency ward on Norristown State Hospital. This one was dated. Looks like January 30th, 1991. Another 302, and they check off issues: loss of weight, lack of energy, sleep problems, eating problems, anxiety, emotional withdrawal, depression, depressive mood, hostility, anger, inappropriate effects, phobias, inability to express, obsessive thoughts, suicidal thoughts, lack of concentration, motor retardation, family, opposites, it says relationship problems, family, opposite sex, and friends. Suicidal acts, threatening, impulsive, compulsive acts. It hasn't changed. It never has changed. And then there's like page after page on this stuff, on their diagnoses, as my one professor would say. She would say diagnosis, but it was my professor at Monco College, Diane Hart. She used to say diagnoses. So that's why I'm saying that. So the bottom line is, unless you're a complete fucking moron and don't see that somebody's physical sexual difference is completely different, or the amount of melatonin in your skin is completely different, the fact that you come from a fucking different country is completely different, and is like comparing apples and oranges to somebody who has physical brain damage that under the American Disabilities Act is a real fucking thing. It is not because I have too much melatonin in my skin. It's not because I am a female. It is not because I am Italian. It's because I have a real, not some fantasy, real physical problem that I've suffered from early on in life, my whole entire life. I was born with curvature of the spine. When I was in high school, they did tests. I didn't get it from in high school, but I had a curved spine, which made it difficult for me to walk right. I had enlarged, what do you call it? That one I read about, the brain scan, where my one side, because I used to get migraines that were, or headaches that were so bad that the pain was excruciating. So they did brain scans. They found one hemisphere of my brain was enlarged, which would make sense why I had these really awful pains. I mean, it was like the brain was pushing inside my skull on the one side. It caused pain that you can't even imagine. And I had, I used to vomit too because it was so bad. It create me to vomit. Then I finally felt a little bit better, but the pain didn't go away. I had mental health issues. I had OCD. And this was because, and I was paralyzed at age 12 from the waist down. I had to learn how to walk again. And nobody knew how it was. They said, oh, there was a virus to land in your spine. Any bad thing that could happen to any human being, all of them, and even more, happened to me. And yet you're saying, oh, he's just making this up. He's just a lazy person. That's why we fired him. We had no clue that Walter had any of these problems. Really? Who are you blowing smoke? Whose ass are you blowing that smoke up? Because obviously you did successfully do it for a few people. But to me, that's total bullshit. So that is my thing, and I could go on for another 20 hours talking about this nonsense, but I won't. So that's the end of that. Again, I was going to talk about Doctor Who. It was I thought it was a very good episode. And then my friend Matt, he sends me all this stuff on people detesting the new Doctor Who, at least one person, I believe. And I apologize to you, Matt, if I got it incorrect. But he did send some article, quite a few articles. I'm going to look because I forgot his name. And if I don't get it right, I will hear from Matt about this. So I'm going to make sure I say it right. Right, Matt? You're going to tell me, Walter, you say the guy's name right sometimes, but then other times you don't say it right at all. You say it incorrectly. All right, I just wasted all that time. There he is. Well, usually he puts his name on. I'm afraid I'm going to start this up, so I'm just going to let you know. And I'm just drawing a blank tonight because I think I'm so angry at this point that I apologize for the background. It's Tim Peel, which he goes by Tim Cast for his YouTube, but it's Tim Peel. Pool. I said it wrong there. So Matt, I caught myself. Tim Pool. It's not on there. I just remembered that. But Tim Pool was picking on my woman, my favorite show, Doctor Who. I think he was. So I apologize, Matt, if I'm incorrect. So there's the end of that. Because he sent me Doctor Who gets woke, goes broke, hits a abysmal 7% RT Rotten Tomatoes score. Fans furious. So maybe it wasn't Tim Pool directly. Now, I found an article where this guy did do a valid argument on, Doctor Who. The guy's probably been watching as long as I have. And he went through every single episode of Doctor Who and showing that, there is a lot of political correctness since day one, but not to the point that it has been in recent years. And it's like, I would love to agree with you. I would love to say, this is correct, but I am sorry, I cannot. And for the last 12 minutes of the show or whatever, I wanted to kind of point this out. And I unfortunately shot down, it was Orphan55, I think was the name of the episode. So let me just put that in, so I make it easier. My voice is stepping down from the mic. But I want to make sure I get this right. Now, there's a group called, I think, Eiffel-55 or something, or Eiffel whatever. I don't know, something like that. I don't know where they got the name from that, because Spyfall was the name of the first episode for the second season with the new Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker. And they named Spyfall after the James Bond film. I think they changed that a little bit, or maybe they didn't. Yeah, Orphan55 is the third episode of the 12th series of the British science fiction television series program Doctor Who, first broadcasted on BBC One, and it says 12 January. Well, actually, that was for the new series. The old series started November 23rd, 1963, if I remember correctly. But all I've read is one article after another article, one person, one fan after another fan, just bitch and complain about Orphan55. Oh, excuse me. And I just, it's like, I want to say to these people, enough already. Stop the nonsense. It's not that bad. Yes, the doctor at the very end gives a lecture on global warming. And the doctor does say that she is not human, and it's up to you as a human being to make a change. Okay, that's fine. Has that ever been done before? And I've said this repeatedly over the years, practically since day one of Doctor Who. The very second episode, this guy pointed out, with the episode called Dialects, I believe. That was the second episode with William Hartnell. Was the Dialects, which I think Terry Nation made. He invented the idea. Came right out of World War II with the Nazis. They were glorified Nazis. The whole premise of Skaro and the dialects and where they came from. And even when Genesis of the Dialects came out with Tom Baker, where they made it really clear what it was about, where dialects originally originated from, was definitely a mock-up of World War II with the stormtroopers, meaning not from Star Wars, the stormtroopers in World War II, and it was right at, it was basically a mock-up of the Nazis. And they made out Davros to be pretty much like a Adolf Hitler or one of those scientists. So it's nothing new. So why are you going to make a freaking big deal out of a show? And it's always just, for all these politically correct freaking people who, we really need a woman president. We need to make changes for the better. We need to add Keller and things like that. You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. They were picking on, this one guy was picking on, Doctor Who changed everything. They have a black guy who made the new theme for Doctor Who. Well, I actually like it. And this guy went and tore it apart and said, well, he's only done 3 sound clips and they're all on iTunes and there's nothing really impressive about it. I thought the guy did a great job. I don't care. He did point out, which is true, the very first producer for Doctor Who was a woman. Lambert was her last name. I think it was Veranity or something like that, but it was a woman. One of the people on the original show of Doctor Who, one of the people behind the scenes back in '63, was a gay Indian man. I don't care. I just loved the show, and it's the same way I feel now. But back then it was okay, and the guy who wrote this hypocritical article said that was, we've already went through this. But then he's making a insults about the new series, how, okay, you got a black guy who redid, what do you call it? They redid the theme song. Who cares? He did a great job. I loved it. I do love it. I don't loved it. I do love it. I loved pretty much everything except one episode from the first season with her where this alien was this little toy-looking figure, something you would make into a toy, which was a cute little creature that was CG'd in her first season that eats mechanical parts and spacecrafts. It was like a virus. And it was like, that was the only thing I don't like out of Jodie Whittaker's episodes. The rest I've had no problems with. I mean, it gets a little quirky. I mean, that particular same episode had a man who was pregnant. Not that he was a woman, a transgender. No, it was a man that was pregnant because the guy came from a different planet where women don't get pregnant, men get pregnant. So, I mean, it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek the way they did it, and that was the way it was meant to be. But you don't see me ranting and raving. Maybe I did at the time and I don't remember it. But I'm not going to go off on a tangent and say, well, you know what? This is not right. I don't care. I love this show. I think, honestly, quite honestly, it's the best I've seen on Doctor Who since when it first came back with Christopher Eccleston, which I really loved Christopher Eccleston. He didn't stick around long enough to actually make it worthwhile for himself. Now, I liked a lot. I liked David Tennant. And I'm not comparing the new show to the old show. If I'm going to go with, which is very impressive, with the last 12 years of having Doctor Who back on a steady viewing thing, minus a year here, a year there, Jodie Whittaker has to be, out of the new series, probably one of the best actors. And, people are saying she is the worst actor. She basically is not Doctor Who. They're saying that she does not know how to act. They're saying that she's just copying off everybody else. Well, what are you supposed to do? You got a show that's about 55 years old. You don't want to exclude people who have watched a show like myself for I've watched it for close to 40 years. So she's actually, nudging her tipping her hat and saying, hey, I know there's people who watched the show from day one. I've gone back, I've done my homework, and she treats the character the way it's meant to be. She has not changed it. Now, the thing I had a big problem with Eccleston, no, not Eccleston. I apologize. Let me take that back. It was Peter Capaldi. He walked in like he didn't give a fuck. He walked in with a sweater on all the time underneath his clothes. He rarely wore the costume, except for the very first episode. He wore his costume, but then after that, he never wore the costume whatsoever completely. And then they thought it would be funny. He says, I play electric guitar. They allowed him to play electric guitar in the episodes, which was even more dumb. It was so fucking idiotic. And then they got to Jodie Whittaker. She's always wore a costume. She's always stayed in character. She has not gone off the beaten track. And she follows the fucking scripts the way they're written for her. She's not changing anything. And yet all she gets is a bunch of morons who say she doesn't know how to act and that the show is so god-awful and politically correct. And the characters they picked, I love them. I don't care if one guy is a black guy, the other girl who's very hot, the Indian girl. They are great actors. They got the thing. They add a little humor to break it up once in a while. They try to not exclude the new fans of the last 12 years, but they also try not to exclude the fans who have watched the show since day one. In fact, Orphan 55 reminded me as where it would have picked up, where this show would have picked up if it would have went right from Sylvester McCoy. I mean, yeah. Is it Sylvester? I want to say Sylvester Stallone, but I think it's Sylvester McCoy. Let me look this up. I'm sorry. I think it is Sylvester McCoy. I don't think that's... Oh, yeah, Sylvester McCoy. If Sylvester McCoy would have said, okay, I'm handing the torch over from myself to you being the new Doctor Who, I would have expected it. I would have expected to see somebody like Jodie Whittaker, because she picked up where Sylvester McCoy had dropped off at when he was back in, I think it was 87, 86, when he was still Doctor Who. That's what I expect to see, was what she has done to the show, what they have done to the show, what Orphan 55 had done to the show. This was a direct link, that episode was a direct link of joining where it dropped off in 87 to 2020. I mean, that is very impressive to me. So I have nothing bad to say about that. It's going on an hour now, believe it or not. Now, what happened was, if anybody with half a brain knows anything about the films, there was 2 films made, or have ever read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, you could clearly see this was just a well-educated person who wrote Orphan 55, because that's all it was. It was a piece out of what happens to Earth in the far future after many wars and many ways that human beings destroy the planet in the time machine, and that the time traveler goes past World War III in the story. He sees the world being destroyed through all these really nasty wars, and you're left with the Morlocks and the other group of people, which I can't remember the name. But you looked at Orphan 55, and what do you see? What she called like humans that were more like angry trees is what she called them. Angry trees. It was something like that. That's what Orphan 55 is. You're left with a desolate planet that all plant life was destroyed. All inhabitants were changed into what looked like to me an equivalent to a better looking Morlock from H.G. Wells. I mean, you would have to be a complete fucking moron not to see that. And they built in the center trying to get people to re-inhabit the Earth from other planets with other types of human life. They make a citadel in the middle of a dead planet that was Earth. And all the human beings are basically a mutation of like the Morlocks and the Time Machine. You don't see that? Obviously not. So that was the part that just really, really bothered me. I could see it. I really enjoyed it. I found it, pretty much like really entertaining because of that. But people don't want to see what's, what they... Now, yes, it was about global warming. That's been an issue on and off for many years. People have been complaining about that probably as long as Doctor Who's been on. It's nothing new. Do I believe in global warming? No. But if you give me a good argument, I will listen to you. And, in this case, I was entertained by it. Does that make me a liberal leftist? No. And I think it makes me more of an open-minded person than the rest of these people out here who are just ripping Jodie left and right, which is what I just don't understand. Yeah. So that is my story for that is my episode for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listen to me again, and I really hope this podcast turns out. Tonight I'm going to play, at the end of my show, a piece from Matt, and I got to look up the name down because it seemed like very similar to the music for the original Doom, the video game Doom. So I did not hear a comment back from Matt, but he did give it a name. Oh, 222. So right now, as I end my show, you will hear 222 from Matt Torrance, the music teacher guy.